Welcome back to all our listeners. It's that time of the week again, where we discuss all things FPL on the First 45 podcast, brought to you by Craig and Darren.
Hello, you're listening to Injury Time of the First 45 podcast.
Hang on a minute.
Who's this guy?
That's not Darren. Is that you?
No. Who's that?
That's our editor, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Indeed. Guys have taken over.
Our editor has snuck in. He's been saying that he wants to get a bit involved. Our timekeeping's been a bit slack, Daz. So,
yeah.
Joe, over to you. Do you want to do an introduction of who you are?
Yep, so my name's Joe. Thanks, Craig. I have been editing the first few episodes of the First 45. These guys have been chatting away far too long, so I've had to make a comment that I need to step in and act as the referee in this game, because otherwise I'll be there all night.
Gary Lineker.
So, yeah, indeed. So, surname's Lineker, nothing like the footballer. I used to play in the sticks at the other end, so keeping the ball out of the net, but wasn't particularly great at that either. But hey, that's enough about me for this week. Perhaps, guys, we wanted to talk about what's happened in the game weeks so far, because the last episode we had a double header, so we've gone into game week 21. Lots has happened. We've all agreed that you guys want to talk about what's happened. So, Craig, perhaps you want to kick us off with some of the headlines of what's happened in game week 21.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my game week wasn't too bad. I was bailed out a little bit in the end by a Salah vice-captaincy after Sterling didn't play. However, I did lose 18 points by transferring out both Robertson and Bamford for Digne and Calvert-Lewin. So I was a little bit miffed about that on Saturday, I have to say.
We heard, mate.
Yeah. I think you guys probably got the brunt of that, didn't you? And I'll probably WhatsApp channels.
Few voice notes, yeah. We got all that.
Few voice notes, few bits of ranting here and there, few expletives. Yeah, not happy. It's not ideal when that happens. I sort of backed up what I said on our episode 2. I really did fancy Everton. I did not see a Newcastle win there any day of the week.
No.
I had that as 2 or 3-0. So it's not worked out. I'm a bit frustrated because actually I had said for quite some time that Bamford's one of those set and forget picks. Leeds are so attacking, really good output going forward. So I'm a little bit disappointed with myself that I've jumped off really. But I saw the shiny lights with Newcastle, a team that have been really playing badly in recent times. And yeah, it's not paid off. And I'm not feeling too confident about Everton going away to Leeds. But
I told you to stick with Bamford. Told you to stick with him.
You did say it on the last pod. You said his time is not up, but I got itchy feet, Daz. I just didn't really see anything else I wanted to do in my team, and I probably should have just stayed patient, to be honest.
To be fair, it looked like a straightforward swap, didn't it, to DCL? There's a lot of talk on DCL with everyone coming back, so yeah, I can see why you did it.
Yeah, but not too bad at the end. Green arrow for me from 197k to about 164k, so not too bad. I've seen worse. What about you, Daz?
Yeah, similar actually. Ended up with a green arrow as well from 7,400 up to 5,188, which is my highest rank of the season. Yeah, dizzy heights. 70 points.
Wow. Fantastic.
I ended up swerving the DCL move that I was considering for most of the week, and then after watching the Liverpool game against Tottenham, I brought in TAA for Dallas, which obviously didn't work out great for this week, but
no.
I'm hoping going forward Liverpool are back to form and it's going to prove to be a good swap. Obviously, I do like my Trent and Robbo double up.
You do.
And I saw an opportunity to get it back in, so let's see how it goes.
Absolutely, you did do love that double up indeed.
Yeah. Salah captain, which proved to be a really good decision. When I saw the lineup, funnily enough, I did fear for it, but of course, 2 fantastic goals for the Egyptian King. Actually, that second goal in particular, I thought was brilliant. Oof, it reminded me of a little bit of. Do you remember the Suarez goal against Newcastle, where the ball comes over the top
off his upper chest? Wasn't it?
Just such quick reaction to get it down and slip it past the keeper. Yeah. Brilliant. And another high point for me was getting Bamford off the bench. Luckily enough, I had John Stones. John Stones not playing.
Can you imagine if they had a full 11 playing and Bamford was sat there with 15? You'd be spitting, wouldn't you?
I think there's a lot of people that have had it this week, actually.
Yeah, there's going to be some disappointments out there, 100%.
So let's talk a little bit more about the different games then. So we obviously just touched upon their City having a lot of rotation, but Chelsea as well. And there was a lot of eyes on Chelsea defenders and Chelsea assets. Craig, did you have any views on that?
Yeah, I think on our last pod I referred to the defender in terms of my one to watch. It was Rudiger at the time, and it still is. I mean, the guy's played now 180 minutes in the first 2 games of Thomas Tuchel's era, and I like it. He's 4.5 million, and he looks pretty set in there at the moment. And the other ones to think about, obviously, are Silva is obviously more expensive, but we have to wait and see really what's going on elsewhere. I know, Darren, you talked about the wing backs, didn't you, when we last podded, and they obviously didn't play. Yeah. So
no, I was really hopeful for the prospects of Reece James and Chilwell, but obviously that's definitely not one to explore at the moment with Marcus Alonso and Azpilicueta coming back into the team. That was a bit of a shock for me, but
massively.
Yeah.
Would you consider some of those a bit more, Dar?
No, I'm still pretty sure that at some point James and Chilwell are going to find their feet there. But I mean, if you could tell me now that Alonso's going to play the next 3 or 4 games, I think there's going to be a lot of people looking at him because, as we know, he's a goal threat going forward.
In terms of other games, what about the Saints Villa game? That was a game shrouded in controversy, and that was a game that your game of the week as well, Dan. So perhaps you.
Yeah, I've only just got over it, mate. I was fuming.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, was it? It was.
No.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean the offside. The offside. I mean, there's no point talking about that because we've seen the same sort of thing all season. Such fine lines. It's pretty ridiculous, but we've been over that ground hundreds of times already. But
I love your suggestion though, Daz, that you referred to in our WhatsApp group about the line.
Yeah. So for me, it should just be one singular line across the screen for the referee to see, and if it's not obvious, then the advantage goes to the attacker. Surely. All these dotted lines and fine lines which seem to be at different angles. It's unbelievable.
Old MS Paint comes out, doesn't it? It's crazy. I mean, I've seen better artwork from a 5-year-old sometimes.
To be fair,
they're scrolling away on the screen.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, the thing that pissed me off even more than both of those decisions was the fact that I still don't own fucking Martinez.
Which you do, Craig, is that right?
Yeah, I do. So do you, Joe, don't you? It's
luckily I do. Yeah,
he is. I have a little sneaky wry grin every time I see him pull something off because I know Darren doesn't own it, and also plenty of other seasoned managers that held out with their wild cards to like game week 16 and of course have brought in 2 playing goalkeepers, and I literally cannot believe that a lot of good managers that I know didn't bring him in and have brought players in like Areola and Johnston and maybe Meslier. I mean, that surprises me so much. I mean, it must just be one of those ones where he's brilliant, and it must be one of those ones. It's not even just him though, is it? It's the team, really. I mean, he is a very good goalkeeper, but they're just such a solid outfit at the moment. But yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Pope, when Pope obviously infuriates managers that don't own him. And I think that you're in that camp at the moment, aren't you?
Definitely. I watched the game actually, and after the match, I think Carragher made a really good point on Sky, saying it just highlights the importance of a good goalkeeper in a team. Obviously, last season they were in and out with different goalies, and having a decent goalkeeper that you can rely on has really shored them up, and obviously they look a really good team.
And we've seen it with others as well, like Liverpool, haven't we? Alisson made the huge difference for them to win that title. Without him, I don't think they'd actually win the title. I know VVD and a few others in there have, of course, proved their worth. But yeah, without Alisson, I don't think they win the title. I think he was just
absolute
surety at the back. So yeah, I agree with that. It's a good point that Carragher makes.
Would you, on that game as well, before we move on, Craig, you picked Danny Ings in your ones to watch game week 21. What's your assessment?
Well, we didn't touch upon the most ridiculous decision of that game, which was the handball, which is it's just ridiculous. I think looking at that and hearing that there are some element of the rule that refers to the fact that if it comes off another body part like the thigh first and then hits the hand, it then technically rules that out. I mean, it was hitting his hand anyway. It's one of those, isn't it, where his hand is there, it's obstructed a goal scoring opportunity. It was an absolute stonewall penalty for me. The flick off the thigh as well is, I mean, even in the camera angle that they obviously weren't properly showing during the live game because we were all watching it going, what is going on here? But when we saw the one where it was slightly in front of the actual shot, I mean, it's like nothing. It's like a flick. It doesn't even really divert it too much. So to be able to say, because it's literally flicked off some of his hairs of his thighs. Insane. Anyway, so that obviously aside, I mean, for me, Ings played very well. I thought he looked dangerous. A couple of decent flicks, really good passing, great movement. Again, he's gonna go and get another 6-8 goals. I think.
He did look good actually. Yeah,
he looked good. He was very energetic. I think he was let down a little bit by some of the other performances, which weren't fantastic. I think we struggled with JWP at right back. I don't think
we miss him in the middle.
Fantastic.
That's for sure.
Miss him in the middle. Miss his kind of like his grit and his experience and his passing ability and just his basic general engine. And he's just not a right back, is he? He hasn't got the pace, and the skill of Grealish just basically tore him inside out a couple of times, and obviously led to their goal when he got down on the flank then. But
I was pleased with Saints though. I thought we did well.
I was pleased. And on another day, absolutely. And on another day, Ings goes and gets 9 points minimum probably, because you know what he's like when he scores. He typically gets the bonus points as well because of the way he plays, how neat and tidy it is. So if he puts that in for the penalty, which he's still on penalties in my book, then he's on the 9-pointer. So still definitely one to watch.
You're keeping with him for a bit longer then.
I'm going to keep my eyes on him.
If you owned him, would you stick with him a bit longer?
Probably, but then there's just so many good assets at the moment around that £6 million mark. I probably would struggle at the moment to be paying out the extra couple of million. So it's one of those where I want to keep my eye on him because I feel like he's an option if you're chasing a little bit or you want to do something a little bit different with a good fixture run. I would go for it. But when you've got Watkins, Antonio, Bamford, Wilson, and Calvert-Lewin all around that sub 7.6 mark, maybe not at the moment.
Yeah. Cool. Before we move on to perhaps who you want to talk about for the next game week, Daz, do you want to give us a little bit more of an assessment around DCL and a bit more detail and whether you think he's a hold or a dump after this week's performance with Everton?
Yeah, sure. So obviously it's a player I talked about a lot in the last pod. I ended up not picking him myself, but if you have transferred him in this week, I certainly wouldn't see any rush to get rid of him quite yet. I mean, on the day he was completely overshadowed by Wilson, but I think against Leeds in game week 22, you should see a lot more opportunities for Everton. Obviously, they're going to be a lot more open. So yeah, definitely stick with him, see how it goes.
Brilliant. So let's move on then and talk about the next game week, because obviously last pod you had to make some predictions about ones to watch for 2 game weeks, and I think you both feel a bit aggrieved with how the games have developed. Do you have any particular standout players, Darren, that you want to talk about first for the next game week?
Yeah, so in my ones to watch last week, I did cover Chelsea a lot, but I think with the uncertainty over who's going to play there, coupled up with a bad fixture run, I think they're probably a team to avoid at the moment, so I'll probably look elsewhere. A team that I am interested in, rather, is probably Crystal Palace. I think they've got a nice fixture run coming up. Just having a look now. Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley, Brighton and Fulham in the next 5. So, I mean, that's a fantastic run of games for them. Mitchell looks like he might have lost his place there. I think particularly with a good run of fixtures coming up, they might give PVA a good run in the side to improve attacking prospects, yeah. So really, the only one you really look at is probably Zaha still. So yeah, he's probably the one I'm keeping an eye on. Villa as well. Obviously, you got the standouts: Grealish, Watkins. I was watching Cash. I still think he's
very controversial.
Yeah. I still think there's merit in Cash for the extra few pounds, but target at 4.7, I must admit, is looking good as well.
What about you, Craig? In terms of a revised ones to watch from last week's pod, who are you looking at this week?
Grealish for me, I have to say. Just love him. I think he's brilliant. I think
he's just a joy to watch, isn't he?
Ridiculous, isn't he? I mean, he's not one of those ones that's explosive from an FPL aspect, which is probably why he hasn't got more suitors, to be honest. But he is just brilliant, as you said. Great to watch, and he's always creating opportunities. I think it's less so his actual output, it's more the players around him, I think, in terms of why his FPL upside isn't perhaps a little bit better. But I do really like Watkins, and of course Al Ghazi has had been banging a few in. I don't know why he hasn't played the last game or two, but One for us to
Brought
maybe
Barkley
look
in,
into.
haven't they? I think Barkley's got the nod on him at the moment, though.
Is that what's happened? Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't actually pay attention to that, but I just see that he's dropped out, and of course, Barkley's come back in, so someone had to move out. And I thought they looked quite good when they played against Newcastle with Barkley as well. I think that he definitely helps the team. He wasn't very good against Burnley, I have to say. I had a look at those highlights, and Barkley was a little bit poor, to be honest, but then so were many others. But yeah, Grealish, back to him, he is just a great asset. He's very exciting to own, as you said. So definitely one for me to watch with their relatively pleasant fixtures as well. He's on everything, isn't he? Everything goes through him. And I currently still own Rashford, which is obviously the most frustrating position to be in. One of those where, I'm like Darren, I'm a little bit hot-headed at times and will get perhaps those types of players out quickly. I've actually been quite patient. I don't know why I've still got him, but I've had him for I think about 4 weeks now or something like that, which is not a long time, but I obviously brought him in for the double game week. Didn't do great there. I think he only managed like 3 points or whatever. But I had a look at him versus Son when I obviously made the acquisition of Rashford, and he's 3 points up on Son at the moment. So no real drama to move straight across after what I've seen yesterday. I was going to do it this game week just gone, but then I obviously made those crazy moves of Dean and Calvert-Lewin in. And actually I would have obviously been better off if I had moved Son in just for the one free transfer. But anyway, that's the person that would obviously be my scapegoat for Grealish. And so it would therefore be Son or Grealish or something like that, really.
Yeah, I'm actually in a kind of similar position now. I was looking at Grealish or Zaha. I've got Son, and I watched the Spurs game yesterday, and it was painful. They looked terrible, but I mean, you look at West Brom in game week 23. I don't know how I can sell him before that, so I'm probably gonna stick with.
Yeah, indeed. Is there any moves that you've got lined up, Taz?
I'm probably likely to roll a transfer this week. I've got Shea Adams, who is a problem, but it's not a problem that needs solving right now. I'm probably going to bench him, and same with Son. I'm going to ride him through the Chelsea fixture and hopefully get to play him against West Brom in 23.
Yeah, that fixture looks quite nice against West Brom, I have to say. It's one of those ones where I could be stung by that because of what I've seen in the last game week and the fact that Kane's not there. I'm now all of a sudden gone from a position of I'm definitely getting him in for Rashford, like not even a question. It was definitely happening, exactly the same money pretty much. I had the money in the bank. Interestingly enough, not to bore you senseless, but Rashford dropped in price this morning, and that put him down to 9.5. And Son obviously went up in price, which was crazy, by the way. I don't know if you saw.
Did he really?
He was. I mean, he was nowhere near the price rise on the algorithms online. He was nowhere near. So it makes me think of the FML video all the time.
Yeah.
I see those price rises, which is
Love
a
that.
great one. It's brilliant. It's just out of the blue, he just rose in price. So he's now 9.8 Son, right? And now I've got 9.5 Rashford and only 0.2 in the bank. So I can't even make the move anyway.
Just to shout out the FML boys there. If any listeners haven't seen that clip, we will post a link because it is absolutely fantastic on price rises.
Absolutely, post it again and again. It is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen made. I actually did say to them on Twitter that it's probably the best FPL video I've ever seen.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. So, have you got any moves that you're confirming, Craig, or have you got any that you're shortlisting before the deadline time?
Look, if I'm going to make any move at this short notice, it would be Grealish in for Rashford. But I just feel like after last week of moving in Dean and Calvert-Lewin for Robertson and Bamford and losing out on 18 points, which again, I'll keep repeating it because I'm just infuriated. It's just such a massive drop. Let it go. I just can't, mate, at the moment. Until the next game week starts, you just can't, can you? It's ridiculous. But anyway, if I was to make one move, it would be Grealish in for Rashford.
Yeah.
And it gives me a little bit of pocket change as well. And I feel that actually Grealish will match Rashford probably or better over the kind of the next few games. But that said, he's got Saints at home and Everton at home next, Rashford. It's just those types of games that he's going to go and get a break in, isn't it? And they're attacking, he'll go and get a break, and I'll be so miffed if he scores after basically holding him and doing nothing for 5 weeks or so.
Is there any other sort of things you've got your arm in terms of are you going captain-wise or any other decisions you've got to make before the deadline now?
Simple for me, Captain Mo Salah again, Brighton at home. I think he's going to be monster captain. Anyone who owns him surely going to captain him. Yeah. As I said, I'm probably going to roll the transfer. I've got Shea Adams there, but I'm quite happy with my 11, so gonna see that through.
Is Che going on the old bench for you then, Daz, do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm happy with my 11 elsewhere of that. So I've got obviously I've got the double Liverpool defence now. You can pretty much play against anyone, in my opinion. And then I've got Gundogan, Bamford, Antonio filling the gaps in there for me, really. So Adams, I'm quite happy to bench.
Yeah, makes sense, I think. Bench and see how he is in the next game, really.
Yeah. What about you, Craigo?
So, yeah, likely to just roll the transfer, to be honest. I don't really want to be tempted into Grealish, but, I mean, at home to West Ham and relatively good fixtures, I could be tempted, but maybe I'll just hold it out. I've got Sterling in there as well, so I do actually have a route to Son as well if I want it, so I could always move Sterling out for Son next week. That obviously gives me quite a lot of money, and then if I was to move Rashford out for Grealish, I'd have a lot of money there as well. Could always upgrade the defence and bring back one of the Liverpool boys or something. Captain for me as well would be Mo, without a shadow of a doubt. So
yeah, indeed. Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I think that's injury time coming to a very swift ending of what is this short pod. It's always good when we see my game rank a little bit higher than yours, Craigo. But I'm gonna get that one in whilst I've got one good game week and I can dish the banner out.
I've been kind to you today as well. I was going to try and get in there early your new nickname, which is Bang Average Joe, obviously, because your history speaks for itself.
I'm not.
But you are, of course,
any
beating
links
me
to my account. But yeah, in terms of my rank, I can already say now that COVID absolutely ruined me last year.
What about the last 10 years?
Oh dear. Joe is. We obviously know Joe quite well, Daz, and if there's one thing that we would both agree on, it's the fact that this guy is a very, very competitive being.
Yes, I would agree. Absolutely.
I don't know many more competitive, and I'm very competitive, and I know you are as well, Daz. But I don't think almost to his detriment at times. And he's just going to brush
sword,
over.
You die by the sword.
Of course, he's just going to brush over all those ranks. And he's going to cut all this stuff out as well, isn't he?
Yeah, this is going to get cut.
This content's going to get cut. The pod's over. He's not going to. Well, if you want to come and jump on and host, mate, you're going to be getting some digs. But you're right, you are beating me at the moment, which is much to my displeasure, as we have a charity bet on as well. So I need to start digging myself out.
Bet. So yeah, well, there's a long way to go yet, and your expertise, hands up, I'll be the first to admit. Between the pair of you, you've got a lot of knowledge here, and I've got my work cut out to keep ahead of you at the moment, and I'm going to get nowhere near Darren, I don't think. So we'll wait and see how it goes, shall we?
You and me both. But hopefully you learn hopefully you learn a thing or two on the pod, though, Joey. Eh?
Well, that's why I'm here, right? That is why I'm here. So on that note, we'll probably wrap things up there. Good to catch up with you both, and I'm certainly looking forward to the next game week.
Yep.
Cool. Right, well, we'll be catching up later on in the week to talk about the end of game week 23, and then we'll be talking about the next game week.
23?
So, 22, sorry. Hey,
Sack it
says
already.
what I know, doesn't it?
Jesus Christ. I don't even know what day of the week it is.
I don't. Honestly don't.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we're talking about game week 22.
There
we go.
Good enough.
And on that bombshell, I think we should probably end things there.
Good work,
Right.
Joey. Thanks for coming
See you
along,
guys.
mate. Appreciate it. Cheers, Baps.